What's up, everybody? Welcome to Untamed and Unhinged Reptile Podcast. Sorry, I got my nephews in here talking about bugs. Sorry. I got my co-host Eric from EA Snakes, and our guest today is Valhalla Exotics. His name's Joe. We're gonna bring him on now and get going. But I do want to say something real quick. Um, this podcast is to spread positivity. Just bring people on to have fun. Show them love, get their names out there so y'all can recognize who they are and what they do. Um, that being said, I'm not trying to go anything with like negativity or anything like that. I'm just trying to run this podcast, the right way. So that being said, I'm gonna bring out Joe and let's get him up. Oh, what's up, Joe? Go ahead.
Hey,
What up,
how's it
Joe?
going? How you guys doing today?
So go ahead and tell us about yourself, brother. I'm doing good actually, but as you can tell, I got them. So
Hey, I had to lock the door to keep my three kiddos out because as soon as I got home, they bombarded me. They all wanted me to go play Minecraft and other games with them.
bro, I would try to do that, and that's exactly what they want to do is play Fortnite. But if I lock the door, they cry that I don't spend time with them.
Yep. So my name's Joe. I go by Bearded Joe
What's
at the
up, King?
shows. I can't figure out why people keep calling me that, but that's the name I got landed with. I run Valhalla Exotics. We are a company that supplies wholesale rodents and roaches to different pet stores for our local guys so we can support those that are on the streets, making sure that our reptiles are fed. And then we provide custom cage products. We have a cage system called the Vanaheim Caging Conversion System, which basically sets up so that you can purchase our products and turn any enclosure or any tote into an enclosure. The reason that I started making that was I started working with a lot of arboreal species. And most of our terrestrial stuff, we already have rack systems and other kinds of PVC enclosure designs that work really well for those. But when you start trying to add in arboreal style caging, you end up having to use a lot of space to provide perches and things like that for them. And it can be more difficult to modify cages, especially when you're using traditional styles like glass, which doesn't really lend well to retaining humidity and temperature, things like that. So we're using the tote system that we basically already use in our rack systems. You're able to retain your humidity, prevent it from wafting out the top through your top screening that slides into your cage, and also you're able to retain a lot of your temperature using less electricity. It's more efficient for keeping our arboreal species. We have perch inserts that go into the enclosures, and the thing that I like about it most is that it's home reusable. So I can actually take, and when I want to upgrade from one small cage to a larger one, I can go ahead and just pull all those products out, slap it into a larger tote, and then stack them up. Have my totes are stacked up along the wall, and it works really well for all my arboreal species. We don't just work with arboreals here at Valhalla Exotics. We also specialize in working with venomous reptiles, crocodilians, and specifically false water cobras. Probably my favorite species, and we're looking to produce close to 100 of those this year.
Wow. Yeah, Mike or Chris, do you hear a little bit of an echo?
Yeah, I started hearing it right now when Joe started talking. Hey, Joe, you got like an echo going off?
Not on my end. I can turn back my volume a little bit, see if that helps.
Yeah, it's a good echo.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a like hollow, empty room and it's just bouncing off the wall.
It
Seriously.
very well could be. This is my bedroom, so it might just be that.
Okay, so they want to know what kind of crocs you working with.
So right now, I am currently working with dwarf caimans. I have a Class 2 license, and I'm working on my Class 1 license so that I can work with the larger crocodilian species. I have handled and worked with everything from Cuban crocs, Nile crocs, morlets, and different alligator species, whether you're talking about the Chinese alligators or our American alligators. But my current species that I'm keeping are smooth fronts, Paleosuchus trigonatus, and Paleosuchus palpebrosus, which would be the true dwarf caiman or the Cuvier's dwarf caiman. I also do have a pair of spectacled caimans that I'm hoping will actually breed and produce my first clutch of those this year.
Wow.
Dude, I'm like, that's exciting, but like, how hard is it to work with caimans? Like, are you like trying to hand train them, or are they hand trained?
So the smooth fronts are a little bit more reclusive. They don't lend to training as well. Not that they can't be, but they're also new hatchlings. So I have three little guys there, maybe like 8 inches or so. Little tiny guys, so they're terrified. They think I'm going to eat them every time I'm in there. So they're mouth open and biting at everything. But my Cuviers that I've had since they were hatchlings. I actually have videos of me um, like nudging the egg and having them pop out, and they're doing their mom and dad, their mom chirp, like calling for mom to come get them out of the nest. So I was there right from the birth of those guys, and they are honestly, my friends joke around and they're like, Joe, you've got the coolest dogs because I have them dog clicker trained. So when I go out there, I can either do an audible call, it's a type of noise, and they will all pop their head up out of the water and come over to me. I have four of those guys, and they'll all come running to the side of the cage. They'll come and they will eat out of my hand. It's getting more dangerous as they get bigger. I have two that are about 2 feet long, and then the other two are 30 inches and 29 inches, which at that size, they're big enough to take off a finger pretty easily. So I use tongs just for my own safety, but they come right over to me, and they're basically house trained. They just come when they're called. I can give them commands to sit or stay and hold, and I can just reach in and pick them up. I'm not saying that everybody should do that, but it is possible. They're very trainable animals, and they respond well to consistent training.
Nice.
I still
How
heard
many
the
different?
echo though.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the echo.
Yeah, they're saying they still hear echo. Like at some points, like I can hear you clearly talking, and then like you're when it echoes, it sounds you out. It's weird.
If I move the
Like
mic
you get
away,
I think it
super
might be the
low.
mic.
away, does that make it a little better?
No, it's still pretty echoey.
How about if I come close?
Still the same.
Uh,
But they say Flavio
how's
first
this
did the
sound?
clicker training at Gatorland 20 years ago with the
Yeah, it's
Cuban
been
and socks.
it's been done for a long
Oh,
time.
there you go. You're good now, Joe.
Did it go away?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
there you go.
All right, I don't know what I did, but just let me. You can't have a beard like this and be good with electronics. That's not how it works.
Right?
What was your question, Eric? What were you gonna ask?
How many different crocodilian species are you working with?
So currently at my property now, we only have the three: Paleosuchus palpebrosus and trigonatus, and then the spectacle caimans.
Okay.
I have friends that work with everything else. My buddy Justin Brown down in Sarasota is the one who's helping me get my Class 1 license. He's got Orinoco's, he's got Cubans, he's got the Niles, he's got Morlets, he's got both species of dwarf caiman, the Trigonatus and Palpebrosus. I think he hatched out something like 27 or 28 Niles and about as many Morlets this year. So
Wow.
I also work with Daniel out at Wild Florida, and they have like
Hmm.
albino alligators and West African Nile crocs and a lot of cool stuff out there.
Nice.
So how long you been doing this, Joe?
Reptiles,
Yes.
I got my first snake when I turned 11. So we're going on 23 years of working with reptiles. And I started out doing ball pythons and blood pythons, some corn snake, king snake, rat snake, like your standard stuff that almost everybody, I feel like everybody who gets in, they go one of those routes. So I did them all. And then I actually started working for Pinellas County Reptiles. If anybody's local to the Largo or Clearwater, Tampa area, they're probably familiar with that name. Kevin and Stacy Dunn were the owners back then, and I worked for them for almost 5 years. And I did every Repticon show between South Carolina, the Columbia show, down into the Sarasota, Bradenton shows, and worked with them for a long time, and have always kind of done it on the side for myself. I took a brief period where I got out of it, and then my wife convinced me to get back into it, and now she has given up an entire room at her house and most of the backyard to the business.
So how many
I'm still
species?
trying to get mine to do that.
Like how many species you working with right now?
Oh, so I have roughly 50 to 60 snakes that the wife knows about. Right now, the main species that we're working with are green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, false water cobras, and then as far as the venomous side of things on the snakes that we work with, um, we also do eastern diamondbacks, which we're trying our hands at breeding this year, pygmy rattlesnakes that we're trying to breed this year, and then I have puff adders, coral snakes. I've worked with white lip vipers. What else do we have in there? I've got a monocle cobra. He's het for leucistic, so I'm looking for a female. If anybody has a plug on a female leucistic or a het for Lucy that I could make an all white monocle, that'd be really cool. And then I'm trying to get a line on a king cobra. That's my last dream animal. I when I was 5, I told my parents that one day I would have caimans and crocodiles and alligators and rattlesnakes, and I would even own a king cobra. And they all kind of rolled their eyes and were like, sure. Well, I'm only one species away. Here we are, Ma. Hey, look, Ma, I made it.
Nice.
Right now you're running a business, having babies,
Yeah.
working with hots. I mean, that's my dream, man. I want to work with hots. I do. Mike says me, but I'm not shipping to Florida.
It's a whole thing. The Florida licensure and regulations, they're just making it more difficult every year.
Wait, are you in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Spring Hill.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out. So how's that work though with all the permits and stuff? You have to permit every snake you got, right?
So basically, I have to keep a running permit of any animal that comes in or out, which means I do a lot of paperwork because I do the venomous snake removal. So with the Hernando County Fire Department Venom 3 team, I do rattlesnake removal. And an interesting part about our pit viper ecology is that you can't move a venomous snake more than a mile outside of its natural habitat without it statistically dying, whether it's from predation or from not being able to find food. Just like you take a wild caught animal, you put it in a cage inside, and it, doesn't want to eat, and it usually ends up starving itself and getting sick or dying. Right? If you don't get it to eat well and do its thing, a lot of our venomous snakes, if you just move them from one area to another one, statistically they'll pass away and they'll die. So we can't, when I get a call and it's like, hey, there's a rattlesnake on my porch, I want him off my property, come get him. I can't just move it over because we're overpopulating everywhere as humans. We're just growing, expanding, and always just paving everything over. So they're losing their habitat, and there's nowhere safe for me to put them that's within that mile range. That's not going to be somebody else's yard. So what I end up doing is bringing them into my care, getting them started eating, getting them free of parasites and diseases. I have a vet who's training with me for crocodilian stuff, and he'll come out and take a look at them and recommend medications and things that they might need. And once they're established and doing well, then I will actually relocate them to venom labs and things like that to make sure that they can continue to live their life without having to be euthanized like some of the trappers and things will do, and actually be a part of medical research and part of keeping us safe on the accident side.
Man, it's crazy. I didn't even know you were from Florida, but look, it says don't tread.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
It's
That's a
on
sick shirt.
USR Florida. Yeah, this is a shirt that was made by one of my sponsors. Actually, it's Luton Republic. He has
Nice.
this shirt up in his thing, and he has USR Florida if you can make them a shirt, because that was when they did the nail gun to
Yeah.
to that snake.
Yep. That was a whole thing.
And you want to know what's crazy, Joe? Because now that I know that you live in Florida, like every time I see a post now, people out there in Florida are like are rounding up Burmese, and they're
There's a
just
lot of
like,
people that are posting it and showing it.
yeah, and then they're like excited about it. They're like, oh, we're helping the environment.
If uh if I wanted to put on my tinfoil hat a little bit, if you watch a bunch of the YouTube stuff, this is just my personal opinion. A lot of those big giant Burmese that they pull out of the Everglades. I'm not saying they're not there. They are there. They are reproducing, right? But if I had to put on my tinfoil hat and just make a judgment call, a lot of the YouTubers and stuff that you see posting these giant snakes they pulled out of a sewer or giant snakes they pulled out of a lake behind somebody's house, those snakes look awfully familiar. And they all post right around the same time. So I'm wondering if maybe we're swapping just for views. Not saying everybody's doing that, but it's a possibility.
I think last year there was a couple videos of people recognizing the same snake on a couple big YouTubers videos. So I
Yeah,
agree with you.
I
No,
think
but
that some of it is.
I'm like, okay, so yeah, I agree. Yeah, it could be staged, but when I had the other guys, I don't know if you know them, Yoshi and Tino from Florida, Modern
Name-
Reptile,
What was their business name?
Modern Reptile. I'm sorry.
It sounds familiar. Honestly, I'm
They're
terrible with names though.
well, I was asking them, do they really just like go out and if they see a snake, they have to euthanize it right on the spot? Huh?
Um, I haven't done in a long time any of the hunts and stuff. Back then, we were able to actually move them out when I was doing it, but now they've regulated it down. I think there's only like 6 people who are left that are allowed to keep or maintain or use and move any of the illegal species down here because you can't keep tegus, you can't keep Nile monitors. I don't think you can do the ornates even. It used to be you could keep the ornates, but not the true Niles. Um, but now you can't keep amethystine pythons, none of the anacondas, the iguanas are illegal. They're really just narrowing all of that down. And those are problem species that are here and do have an effect on our native population. But my other tinfoil hat is that when I was a kid, I used to go out to these parks and I would catch water moccasins and rattlesnakes, and I would catch black racers and indigos, and I'd find all kinds of species of snakes out in our parks. And when I take my kids out now, I can't find any of it. It's all gone. I can walk through the woods for hours and hours and not see a single snake. I can barely find any lizards. Our tortoises population has dropped. There's very little left, other than the alligators, which were protected for so long that now we have a good population of them. It's it's kind of sad, and I think that we have a much larger effect on our native ecology than the other species that are invasive are having.
Yeah, like
I don't,
like y'all also can't breed the diamondback terrapins.
Nope. Only
That,
allowed to keep those for educational purposes. I think it's one per person per household. So you're not allowed to have more than one of them unless there's multiple people that technically own it. And even then they give you they my one of my mentors and friends has one that he's had for I don't know like 10 years or something. And they just recently were like, "Oh no." And they took it off his license and have been fighting with him to try and get rid of it. It's a
wow.
native turtle.
I agree with you, Joe. Like, I'm not the best herper. My wife is probably a better herper than me, and I couldn't find a snake, let alone a venomous snake, to save my life.
That's part of
Sometimes
the
I'll find a
reason
shed in the yard, but that's really about it.
Right. Used to be I could find all kinds of stuff. I'd go out and my parents always tell the story. They used to make me empty my pockets when I would come back in from outside because I always had some shit in my pockets, whether it was snakes, the ringneck snakes, black racers.
The ringnecks are my favorite
Yeah, they're
because
awesome little guys.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing is I can't even find those to feed to my coral snakes anymore. But I think we have a much bigger impact on our native animals than because the two snakes that I saw are that when I went out to Mayak, I spent 4 days out there and I hiked and I went everywhere. I went off trail. I was all over the place. And I saw two snakes the entire time. Both of them were already in the mouth of a bird, and they were small. So the only two animals that can really coexist with us, other than like small lizards and geckos and things like that, right, are going to be like your possums, your raccoons, and birds. Those are the only animals that really adapt well to living in the same environment that we humans are creating. And so when you take those animals, which are great predators of small snakes and smaller reptilians, then all of a sudden these animals that are surviving and actually coexisting with us are going to be hurting the population even further. So we destroy the environment, and then the predators are the only things that are able to live near us. And now we have nothing left for our kids to go out and hunt and find and play with.
A bird over here that's a great hunter. We have the sandhill cranes,
Oh yeah,
and they'll eat anything they can find.
even baby ducks. I've seen them. I've seen them snatch up baby ducks and swallow them down.
I have turkeys and the sandhill cranes, and sometimes it's like a episode of Gang Wars because they don't like each other,
No,
and the turkeys will actually drive them off because the
oh really?
turkeys don't put up with anything.
They don't put up with that.
Mm-mm. And you hear the cranes squawking. You'll be in the house and you can hear them outside.
Yeah, going at it.
Hmm.
We actually have a resident turkey at my local gas station where I stop for my monsters in the morning. I named him Richard because he's a dick and he attacks everybody at the gas station. And it's become my favorite thing in the world to sit in the morning and just watch him attack random people as they're trying to get coffee or get gas. And he's just chasing people down.
Yeah, Sammy made a good point. The hawks too.
Hmm.
The hawks can see so far, and you just see them stomping in the ground. You can't even see what they're stomping on.
Yep. And
Hey
they can
Joe, so
coexist with us pretty well.
go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought Joe was saying something. I was gonna let him finish.
Oh no, I was just agreeing that the birds of prey, right? And
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily birds of prey doesn't necessarily just mean hawks and eagles and turkey vultures and things like that. Like the different storks and the different cranes and egrets and things that we have here, they'll snatch up a small snake just as quickly and have at it. So the animals that are able to survive around us are great predators for and are probably having a bigger impact than the invasive species, in my opinion.
Yeah, those little white egrets are great hunters. Oh, especially the little lizards too. They'll
They're
just sit there and wait.
That's funny. But Joe, are you trying to do this like long term?
So this was the first year. Well, actually, not this year, but last year was the first year that, believe it or not, I made more money and did better business wise than I did as a nurse practitioner in the state of Florida, which is kind of
I
sad, but also awesome. Like it's good to have that moment where it tips over and it's like, okay, hey, this is becoming more viable than medicine. It's kind of sad to think about that it took me 6 years of education and schooling and hard work to pass all of the exams and tests and learn everything that I need to be able to take care of humans medically. But in the flip side of that, it only took me 500 clinical volunteer hours to be a nurse practitioner, and it has taken me thus far 5,000 hours of volunteer cleaning other people's cages and taking care of their animals to get the licensure for the crocodilians and the venomous, because it's not just any venomous that you have to have experience with. In the state of Florida, you have to have experience per family. So Crotalidae, Viperidae, or not Crotalidae, but Viperidae, Elapidae, um, the Colubridae, and Helidermatidae. Plus, you have to have 1,000 hours for your dwarf caimans class 2 stuff, which includes alligators. And then there's another 1,000 hours of training that you have to do to get your class 1.
wow.
So it has taken me far longer to get licensure for that than it did to get a medical license to write prescriptions.
Damn, that's a lot.
But to answer your question, yes, I would, if at some point I could get to the point where I'm able to hire other people who are passionate about working with reptiles and animals and possibly open up my own small shop. just to market my products and provide feeders locally and things like that, as well as be able to travel and have more free time to do trade shows and go and do more education. And I would love to do more videos and things like that. Um, thus far, I've been working 5/8 a week, and that makes it hard when one of my off days I have to do deliveries to the pet stores. So my new job that I'm starting next week is 410s, which will give me an extra day each week to do some more filming and some more video podcasting and working with doing some more like material production in that aspect. But I would love to be involved more in that and at some point be able to work a minimum number of hours as a nurse practitioner just to keep my licensure active. That way I can write scripts for my kids when they're sick and stuff. But
I mean,
be
that's
able
a
to focus.
plus.
It is a plus. I don't have to find a pediatrician that's willing to write me for amoxicillin for my kiddos. I can just call the pharmacy and go, "Hey, he's got an ear infection. Let me fix it."
What when you go out to find or on your calls for venomous calls, what's the most common venomous species that you run into?
So I actually moved to Spring Hill because, and don't tell my wife this, but I moved here because for whatever reason, the pit vipers, the water moccasins, and eastern diamondbacks that we have here specifically have a higher yield of cytotoxins and myotoxins than any other rattlesnake. So current Profab and Antivip antibody profiles aren't enough to actually cover with the bolus dose. So normally, if you get bit by one of those snakes, your initial bolus dose is going to be like 6 to 12 vials of antivenom. Which, by the way, on the regular market, what you're going to get charged for that is around $25,000 a vial. So don't mess with these snakes. You'll never financially recover from it, right? It's not cheap. And then for the
Dang.
next like 48 hours, depending on the progression of the severity of that bite, you could have between 4 and 6 vials every couple of hours after that in order to cover it. But for whatever reason, ours here have a higher yield of those toxins, and the current profiles that are built into, which are based a lot off of the Western Diamondback, isn't enough to cover it, and it's requiring more than one bolus dose, which makes it even more expensive. So part of what I do here is retaining water moccasins and eastern diamondbacks specifically so that we can provide them to the venom labs to have their profiles of venom incorporated into our production of Antivip and Profab.
I didn't know it was that expensive.
It's
Yeah, neither
it's
did I.
very expensive. Not all of them are quite that expensive. I don't think the coral snake hits that high, but any biologic medication is super expensive. I have a medication in my nurse practicing job that somebody gets I think it's every 3 months they get an injection, and it's $115,000 every injection. And it's just a back of the arm, quick poke, you're out the door. $115,000 every 3 months.
Does insurance cover that?
It does, thankfully, if you have good insurance. If you don't, there's crappier ways of getting treatment for that disease process. But like you can get treatment, it's just not as efficient as that medication. That one works well, and it's expensive.
It's crazy expensive.
Yeah,
I'm just like, damn.
I,
I,
don't even get me started about how insurance and medication expenses and all of that's also a scam. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, guys. I promise. But listen, everybody's out for the dollar.
oh, definitely. We all know that. I think I knew that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Eric knew that.
Yeah. I just had a surgery on my mouth from a previous surgery that went no good. So I had to play that game for a little bit.
Oof,
Damn, bro.
No fun.
no, anything to do with medicine is super expensive.
Hmm.
Hey, I want to clarify something real quick because I
Yeah.
think I barely heard you say that you make rats.
So yeah, I breed and sell feeder rats.
No,
I
not
do some.
rats. Rats. Like,
He does both.
oh, he makes rats and breeds rats.
So
I
the
believe
caging
so.
system that I was talking about, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So the Vanaheim caging system is 3D printed products that basically, if you go onto our YouTube, you can watch videos of me putting them together and setting it up. Basically, the products are something that you can purchase, and you can turn any tote, like a storage container, right? I like to use like the flat-sided HDX totes because they have the indented lids, so they stack nicely on top of each other. But the products that I use puts is ventilation systems for the side of it, a portal system that goes on the front, so that I have a slide door that slides open and I can gain access without having to lift up the top. With arboreal species in particular, right? Emerald tree boas, green tree pythons, Amazon tree boas, they have this massive stigma around them that is like, oh, they're bitey, they're visual animals only, they're look at but don't touch. You can't mess with them, right? I have a 6 foot emerald that I got at 6 feet from the wild. She has bred twice for me and produced 2 litters of babies, and I would hand her to my 8 year old without second guessing it. And the reason that I'm able to do those things, whereas other people will show you like you have to restrain them and like they're gonna bite you and they're defensive and they're not nice, is because the way we approach them using standardized caging is that most of it, if you start off from the bat, like most of it's top open, right? So you have to slide open the top of the cage and reach in. Well, approaching an animal that way, especially an arboreal animal that lives up in the trees, their primary predator, one of them is going to be birds of prey, right? And so automatically you're starting off on the wrong foot because most of them that you can get your hands on for a decent price are going to be wild caught imports, which means that they were sitting on a tree branch off near the edge of the water because that's where they collect them from. And somebody ran up on a canoe and smacked the shit out of the tree branch until they fell off. They stuffed them in a bag and they shipped them overseas. And let me tell you something, guys. If I was chilling in a hammock, somebody ran up, stuffed a bag over my head, stuffed me in a box, and shipped me overseas. The
What?
moment that box opens up, it's buy one, get one. Okay? I'm coming out swinging, right? Obviously, these animals aren't going to have a real fond adherence to us. They're not going to be interested in us because of their experience with humans thus far. So you take an animal that doesn't want to be seen, that likes to be secluded and away from humanity and away from being seen. They want to kind of just live their own life, hidden away from the rest of the world. And we kidnap them, we bring them here, we put them on display in a glass box, and they go, "Oh God, I'm on the menu." And then we reach in like a predator from the top. We've done everything wrong from the start, right off the bat. And so, of course, these animals get this reputation of being super defensive and super aggressive or mean or bitey or whatever you want to put a name on. So I decided one day I was like, I'm gonna keep emeralds, I'm gonna keep green trees, and I don't even care if I can handle them. If I just get to look at them and enjoy the fact that I get to keep this awesome species and I can get them happy and eating, great. So I started working with ways to actually take and convert totes over because I knew that I needed humidity to be on lock, and I knew I needed my temperature to be on lock. So I used radiant heat panels as a heating source on the top of my enclosures, and I just kept them honestly in dark totes. The black totes that are completely solid, can't see into it at all. I ran LED lighting inside of it so I could get a day night cycle, and I just left them alone. And I was able to get them to start eating, which is one of the hardest things to do with new imported green, not usually green trees. Green trees are usually eat for you, but the emeralds especially, they'll just go on a hunger strike and they won't eat. So I was able to get them to eat, and then I was able to get them to start shedding and doing their thing, and they were doing well. But I wanted a way that I didn't have to unstack these totes and actually told to take the top off it every time I wanted to do that. So I started looking around, seeing what kind of products there were, and there's a gentleman who makes a similar product to what I have done. Um, I can't remember his name right off the top, but he made a product that was similar, and I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, listen, I like your product," and it was basically a frame that you would cut a hole out and just attach to the outside of the tote, and then he would usually send you the glass with it. And I don't know if he was cutting it or however he was doing it.
So
Uh,
not like focus cube,
David
right?
Brahman, that's his name. What was the David Brahman was his name. Um, I can't remember the name of his company, But I messaged him and goes and I went, hey, listen, I'm gonna set up a website. I like your product. I like where you're going with it. I have a couple of like tweaking idea designs um, that we could like make this a little bit better. That might work better for what I'm doing. And he was like, honestly, no. I was like, well, I'd love to like wholesale and recommend your product. And he was like, nah, I just want to keep it small. And I was like, okay, well, I tried. Let me see what I can figure out. So I contacted a friend of mine who does 3D printing, and I threw him my designs, and we went through a bunch of different iterations of the like process of just eliminating ideas that didn't work and building something that worked better for what I did, and we came up with the products that I'm selling now. The perch clips are things that hold your standard half-inch PVC because most of my animals prefer the smaller branches than what you would find on like grapevine logs and things like that that most people would attach between. The portal system I originally had at multiple different sizes. One was like 10 by 15 because I liked that size, and then I got real sick of cutting acrylic because that's a nightmare. So then I just decided to make it all standard picture frame sizes, so you can just buy glass, acrylic, plexiglass, whichever that's already pre-cut, and just slide them in.
That's cool.
Um,
Nice.
the holes for my ventilation system, we started off with inserts that just snapped into place. Now our newer ones, because now I'm working with more venomous things and arboreal venomous, I made them so that they actually screw into the plastic now. It's a little more secure and they're adjustable and they hook up to a micro fan because one of the ways that I found that was easy to get my emeralds and green trees to actually ovulate and cycle was to drop their temperature, which I designed these to hold temperature and humidity really well. And now I want to drop it so I can cycle them. And I was like, well, I've shot myself in the foot. It's too good at what it does, and I can't get them to cycle. So I designed my fans and ventilation to actually hold micro USB plugged fans for your computers. So now I can pump fresh AC into my cages and drop my temperatures at night and actually get more airflow into my cages. And that's how I was able to start breeding the emeralds and the green trees. So all of this just kind of built in on top of itself because I wanted something that I was going to be able to just look at them, let them live their life and be happy, and not have to piss them off or get bit because the jar of teeth that had been left in my arms, chest, face was getting full. And I was tired of being bit all the time. And then one day, using these perches that just clip in and out, I would just pick the animal up on the perch, I'd set it in a stand, and I'd walk and clean the cage, and I just put them back. I never moved them. One day, my big female, Daenerys, just started coming off the branch to me. And I did like this, like, please don't bite my face, like lean to like try and like, I was just like, well, let's see what she's going to do. And she ran up my arm. She was up on my head and her whole demeanor had changed. She had lost that fear of like, hey, this guy's going to get in here. He's going to try and pull me off the branch. I think I'm going to fall. So I'm going to tell him no. And I only got one way to do that. Grabs me. So then I restrain her by holding her behind her neck. And now she's shitting everywhere. And nobody's having fun in that whole scenario. It's awful start to finish, right? And so when I changed that one aspect where I'm not pulling them off the branch and forcing that interaction, it stopped being a negative interaction every time. And so that fear started to slide away. And I realized that all the green trees, all of the other emeralds, they all had started to calm down. And now I can reach in, now that they've lost that fear, I can just reach in and pull them off. And I don't worry about being bitten because now we have that established relationship of like, oh, this guy's not so bad. He brings the water and the rats and he cleans the shit up around here. He's like the butler. So now I get to share those animals with people and show them like just listening to the animal and approaching them, not from above, from the side, picking them up, letting them come off of their own volition. They really don't deserve the stigma they had. They just had a bad go at interacting with humans the first go around.
How many emeralds and green tree pythons do you have?
So I have dwindled down on the green tree pythons. I used to have six or seven of them. I had like 3 or 4 pairs that I was working with on the green trees. I'm down to 2, and I'm probably going to be liquidating those and focusing more on the emeralds. I was a green tree guy like from the start. I loved my green trees. I loved all the different localities. I wanted to just get each locality, Sarong and Jayapura and Viox and Aruz, and I wanted to line breed them and go hardcore into it. And they don't call green trees the heartbreak species for nothing, my guys. They're not easy. And then when I did figure out how to get them to breed and get consistent clutches, the hatch rate is awful. My first season, I think I had 19 eggs from one female, huge clutch. The other one I had like 11 or 12 eggs, and I had four surviving babies from that year. The next year, I had four or five babies out of just one clutch. And then this last clutch that just popped out, I had 11 eggs and only three of them hatched. And I have tried everybody's idea. I have been on the phone with Harlan Wall. I've been on talked to Ed Marino about the emerald stuff. Like I call people and I'm just like, tell me exactly what you do. And the one thing that all of them have said about the green trees is you can do everything exactly the way that I do it and still have terrible luck with them. They just can be one of the most difficult and heartbreaking species to work with. So I'm going to focus in on my emeralds. I have much better luck and success with those, and they are a lesser known species. There's a lot of lines and like high end not morphs because it's all line breeding, right? With green trees, there is an albino, but I think that there's a lot more of unlocked or not yet unlocked genetic things that can happen within the emerald tree boa um, and that community. And I'm excited to just get involved in that a little more heavily and see what we can kind of pull out of their genetics and see what happens with it.
I've seen some of Ed Marino's. Uh,
His
I think they're
basic stuff is
basins.
wild.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
I was gonna say, do you know Amy from Happy Basins?
Mm-mm. Not personally,
Oh,
no.
she's on Instagram. And she's awesome.
Yeah.
She actually has like a whole jungle theme in her room.
Oh wait,
Like,
she's the one who has she has like a hammock in her
yeah,
basement.
in her base,
Lets-
in her
I have
roam.
seen her. Yeah, and she
Yeah,
lets them like, free roam at night, and they all go back to their enclosures in the morning.
yes,
Yeah, that's wild. I have
that's
seen some of
cool.
that stuff. So
And
cool.
she has the whole like rainforest like drainage system in her, like for them too, to get
Yep,
them the mate and whatnot. I don't know,
so
man.
cool.
That's something to think about, but I mean, it's a lot of work, though.
It is a lot of work. I do have one male basin, and I'm looking to get a female for him. He's 7 years old, so I've got still got time with him, and I would love to reproduce some basins in the near future. Um, there's a lot of things that I want to do. I'm gonna do this forever. It's never gonna not be something that I do, even if it ends up being small time, little passion projects here and there. I'm always gonna do this.
Nice.
Man, and how did you come up with the name Valhalla Exotics? Where'd that come from?
So I honestly, I love Viking culture. I love Norse mythology, and I've always all of my tattoos are Norse mythology and Viking based. And then this one here is that's actually Jormungandr. That's the false water cobra. My first one that I got when I got back into them. That's actually her print. And then I have my there we go. I've got the Valknut, the nine virtues of Norse mythology, and then on here is Aesir, which is the symbol of protection. And I just have always been fond of and loved the Norse mythology. I mean, I have a Norse mythology like kids book that I read to my kids at night. Like, just been something that I've always been passionate about and liked. And the whole idea behind old maps and sailing across to find new worlds, and the thing that stuck out to me was on the old maps they would write "Here there be monsters," and so that's like our slogan saying is "Here there be monsters." And so we work with the things that scare other people, the things that other people have stigmas about or are nervous to work with, whether it's venomous crocodilians or animals that are bitey or aggressive or offensive.
Hmm.
I like to work with those things and show people that when you understand how the animal's thinking and what they're processing, and you can work within the confines of respecting them, that is a magical thing for me. And so I just ended up with Valhalla Exotics and wanted to pursue that. So a lot of our animals have like Norse themed names, whether it's Jormungandr, Tyr, Torah, um, Freya, Sigurd. a lot of them have like Norse themed names.
Nice.
Other than the monocle, he ended up with Jafar because my wife said that that's what he had to be
You gotta please her.
named. Right? She
I
has
think
her
my
own
wife's
project.
named 80% of my snakes.
Yeah. When people ask me, they're like, "What's its name?" I go, "To me, it's VE00CC21, but my wife calls it Jon Snow."
John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick, Jon Snow, Daenerys. She's got names for them.
So what do
No.
you feel like? What do you feel like the one thing the animals have taught you while working with them?
Something that the animals taught me while working with them: force is not always the way. You can't force humans to like you, right? We're all different. You can't force animals to like you either. You can force interactions that will probably end with you getting hurt. And you can restrain animals and make them submit to your will and kind of break their spirit like you would a young horse that needs to be, saddle broken, right? But there's a different style that you can do when training, especially with apex predators and things that could, at some point here along the way, when my caimans get 4 or 5 feet long, they have a lethality to them. They could remove portions of my hand, my arm. They could, take a good chunk out of my thigh. I took a bite from my spectacle caimans, and all he got was 3 teeth into me. And he grabbed the top of my thigh with 3 teeth, pinched through, left 3 great big gouges out, and bruised the entire top of my thigh and left nerve like tingling and weird like sensations
Damn.
that run down my leg to this day. And that was just 3 teeth on a quick snip that he caught me slipping, right? And so there's something magic to me when I'm able to work with an animal and gain its trust to where it trusts me to be in its cage, involved in its care, and around it. And then it gets even more special when these animals that are definitely not meeting me at the door, wagging their tail like excited to see me, right? That's not the kind of like interaction that I'm looking for with these. When I'm able to get them to respond to commands and follow instructions and listen to me in a mutual respect environment, that to me is the magic of working with large reptiles and dangerous reptiles and like these species that I'm working with. I can't force that. I can jump on a caiman and restrain it and tie it up and tape its mouth down and be like, I'm brave, I'm strong. But to be able to get into the enclosure and walk around in the weeds and know that if this animal pops up on me, that I can tell it to hold and stay, and it's going to listen, knowing that it's going to get a treat if it does. And if it doesn't, I got to get out. But when it does, that's the magic for me. And I think that's part of the respect nature of what I do is respecting the animals for what they are and what they're capable of, but the intelligence that they have. And they're far more intelligent than we give them credit for. They think a lot more than we think they
Nice.
Hey Joe, do you have anything you can show us right now or no?
do. I can grab you some of the green tree pythons. They just hatched out.
Oh yes, let's see that. I also want to
Bro.
ask Joe if he deals with imports, like strictly imports, or what.
Cool. Ask him. You can ask
Yeah,
whatever, bro. Um just got these gnats, bro. Just annoying things in my face.
you need one of those tape things that hangs down. The fruit fly things.
So, see if we can get zoomed in on these guys here. Don't fall on me, Bubba. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, hold on. Sorry.
I had 3 red babies. There we go.
That is gorgeous.
That popped out for me. This one might be a better view. There he is. Poke your head out. See
Oh,
him?
they're so tiny.
They're so little. Oh, he's so nippy. So aggressive. There he is.
So feisty.
So feisty when they're little. We had 3 little red guys pop out. hoping that they do well, and maybe we can bring them to the the NRBE show, the Daytona show, and show them off. There we go.
What was the pairing on those guys?
So the mom is a Biak female. She's got a lot of high yellow to her, and then the dad is an Aru crossed with a Manakwari. I'm sorry, Maruki. Maruki.
Nice.
So
It's exciting though, right? When you see your eggs hatch and they come out.
yeah, there's something magic about that moment when you are able to reproduce and recreate something, especially on a species that not a lot of other people are working with. The green trees, I feel like, are being more done more repetitively, which is again part of the theme of what I do. Is if everybody else is doing it, they're doing a great job. Why would I compete with that? I see a lot of people come in and they're like, I'm going to breed ball pythons and I'm going to make $1 million doing it because I'm going to breed this to this to this. And I'm like, yeah, you and everyone else, my guy. You and everyone else. Not that there's anything
But
wrong with ball pythons. I started there. I love them. I think I've got 9 or 10 of them in my office. I don't breed them. I don't take care of them. But my apprentice decided he finally wanted to get out of it and switch to chameleons. And I was like, I'll help you get rid of them at the shows because I wanted his cages. So I made sure that I bought the cages because I wanted the rack systems. And so I have them here and I'm feeding them. And if they're here when it comes breeding time the end of this year, then I will breed them. I love them, but I want to work with things that nobody else is working with, the unknown territory. I want to tread new paths and work with species that aren't being done as frequently. So that's why I've gone so heavily into the false water cobras because they're one of the most intelligent species I've ever worked with. Um, I can call for them and they'll come out of their cage to me. My female's 8 feet long now, and she eats every 3 to 5 days, like 3 or 4 small to medium rats. Um,
Wow.
they, I was telling, I was telling him earlier. Each one of my adults, I have 7 adults, and each one of them eats roughly $3,600 worth of rats a year because they're a diurnal species that is always hunting, always moving, always swimming and climbing. So they eat a lot, and they never stop moving. So they cost me a lot of money to feed, which is why they need to make babies so that I can keep feeding them. If I didn't breed my own rats, I'd be broke. Um,
I was gonna
but I really
say,
like them because most of the time I can feed them frozen thawed. I'll put it on a paper plate, toss it in their cage, and I would say 7 or 8 out of 10 times they will eat everything on the plate and then pull forward and shit on the plate, and then I throw it away. They're almost house trained. Like they're so smart.
They
Um,
have a high metabolism.
very high metabolism.
so they're kind
I
of
can
like indigos.
Yeah, very much like the indigos or
Yeah,
quibos. I can feed them, and the next day, if I walk in there and start feeding other people, they're smacking the glass like, "Yo, where's mine?"
dude, man. So that I really want to get into like Kribos. I do want to start working with Wamos.
Yeah,
This lady, this pet shop. I've been talking to her for like a long time. There was another pet owner there, but I started talking to her, and she has a Wamos. She just got some baby Wamos, and
nice.
I was like, she's like, yeah, I'll hook you up with one, and I was like, shit. Well, let me get everything situated first. Let me get these ball pythons out of here. So I only
Yeah,
have retics and milk snakes, hog noses, sand boas, you know, little stuff like cute stuff that I could probably sell.
yeah.
But I really
Well,
want to
maybe.
like expand. I want to get into like viper boas, caribos, false water cobras,
Yeah,
you know.
I think
But
most people that because I take my big female to the shows when she's not
hold
breeding.
on, or you can Eric take over for me real quick. I'll be right back.
Go ahead, Joe.
So when I go to the reptile shows and do Repticons, I usually bring one of the big falsies because I can just have them sitting. They're always moving around. They're cruising, and like honestly, my arms and shoulders get tired because they don't stop. But I can pass them to anybody at the show, and they'll go right off onto somebody else's shoulders and hang out with them. They're not trying to fly and get away. They're just curious. They just want to cruise and move. So once the people see them and they get their hands on them, most people who haven't seen them are immediately like, "Well, damn it, Joe! Now I need one of these too." And so that's mainly what I did for the first probably year and a half that I was running shows is I would go out and I would market my product and I would talk to people and I would help sell for my apprentices and people who are working with me, whether they had ball pythons or crested geckos or whatever they were working with. I would help them market and sell those at the shows while I taught people about the falsies. And by the time I finally got my first clutch, I think most of them were already reserved by people who had been like, I want on the list. Like, as soon as you have one available, I want one. And so I would bring them I'd bring babies to the show, but they were all already reserved. So I'd have to like hide them behind the counter and like just dish them out every so often when people would.
That's funny. How many shows do you do?
So I do the Lakeland, Sarasota, Tampa, and Jacksonville and Orlando shows.
Nice.
Uh, I'm sorry, not Jacksonville. I just did Jacksonville recently. I was covering for a friend of mine. Basically, what a group of us have gotten together and done is that it's really hard to get into some of the shows. There's a long waiting list. There's shows that I've been on the waiting list for over a year now. And hey, Mission Morphs.
What's up, Mr. Morse? What's
And
up, Shauna?
it
Good
can be
evening.
it can be difficult to like get into them. So when I'm able to get into a show, I will like call up my friends and be like, "Hey, did you want to do this one?" And basically, I will purchase multiple tables when I get my opportunity to get in, and then we will have other friends come and hang out with us. We're hoping to get to a point where we can get like 12 or 16 of the tables all in a group, and just basically all of us open it up, hang out. All of us that are friends just have a good weekend, just hanging out and selling our animals that we like and our products, and just making it a good, fun hangout weekend, little vacation.
Nice.
It's awesome. When you come into Texas, then
Honestly, hopefully in the next year or so, I want to get out and start doing the farther shows again. I've been stuck in Florida for too long, and it's miserable, hot, and like legislation and rules make it less fun down here. Everybody else in other states are having more fun than me. So I'm not allowed to have any of the big snakes anymore, but I would love to come out and hang out with other people and see their collections and whatnot. Is that where you're at?
yeah, I'm in Texas. I'm here with I don't know if you know Rory's dad on Instagram. He does the hots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's here in San Antonio.
Okay.
We got Lucas Labs, the Retic
Uh-huh.
from Retic Lounge,
Okay.
and now he does the Conjure Room or the
Nice.
Conjure Lounge. Sorry.
Conjure Lounge. Okay.
I'm in San Antonio, Mission More, San Antonio, Texas.
Well, as I expand out, I'm looking to do like essentially it'll be guys trips, right? Because again, there's cool shows out there. I used to go as far as Columbia and South Carolina and the Pennsylvania Hamburg shows and things like that. And so I want to start traveling and not necessarily even vending at them so much as just going and being there. So I'm thinking about getting my guys down here, the venomous community, and those of us that are working and doing the Repticon shows. That way, when these bigger shows and stuff are happening out there, then we just all jump in the van and we haul out and make it a fun road trip weekend and go see the cool reptiles elsewhere and then film stuff and do podcasts together and just kind of bring the community together. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed that changed from when I was doing this 10 years ago is everybody was working together and everybody was excited to be a part of what we were doing. And now the reptile
Hey,
community has
Nikki.
changed a lot. It can be a little backbitey and backstabby, and we don't hang out with you and Mean Girls Club going on. And I'm
Yeah,
not.
Mean Girl stuff.
Yeah, it's just Mean Girl shit, and I'm not about that. If you do something cool, I'm not gonna try and snipe out your sales by trying to buy from you wholesale so I can make a couple of bucks off of it. If you do hognose and somebody wants a hognose, I'm gonna be like, hey, go talk to my boy over here. I don't do red tails, but my buddy James does. Go talk to him. Tell him the beard sent you over there. He'll take good care of you. And I think if we can get more people involved in the community and just like enjoying what we do and the different specialties and learning from each other, then the animals will be better for it.
100%.
I agree because I'm gonna tell you what, man. When I started this podcast and I'm doing exactly what you're saying, trying to bring people together, unite, it's hard, man. It is
Can
hard.
be.
And what was I gonna say right now? Because Oh, about hog noses. Like, yeah, last night I had a big hog nose podcast,
Yeah.
and that shit went 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Yeah, it was awesome though. It was a great show. Uh, and they're like a bunch of upcoming. I got some new upcoming breeder box like hognose breeders like
Nice.
that came into the game because their community is not really that big yet.
Right.
So their community is still young, still young. I
It's
agree.
still young. They got a lot
And
of cool stuff happening quick though.
yeah, and so I brought them on, and I had Jeff, the the King of Hogs. That's what they call him, King of Hogs.
Mhm.
And then Miracle Nate or Miracle Reptiles, which is Nate. He works with hogs, and he also runs the Hognose Hub. He's one of the sponsors for the channel. And
Okay.
then I brought Mello on, and they're all like just talking about hogs. It was awesome, and they were all kind of shy at first, like for the first 45 minutes in, as always. Like I
Right.
told Eric, everybody's always shy, and then once you start talking, you get moving. Then everybody starts opening up. They start
Right.
talking. So he, so Jeff was like, well, I was the host, so I was like, I wanted everybody to like put in some input. And then I was like, well, why don't y'all pull out y'all's favorite snake to get them talking to interact? Like, where'd you get this snake from?
Right.
Their hog nose and everything, and then took off from there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just saying
I
it's
learned a
hard.
lot from that one, especially bug eyes and hognose. I had no idea.
Yeah. You can learn all kinds of things because that's the nice thing about what we do is like I might have a ton of so 515. How long does it take for an
5150.
item to ship? So I keep a back stock of my products. So usually within the same couple of days, I can have a product out. If you want a larger order of something and I'm not able to like fill it all right away and get it out within the next day or so, then I have to get it printed and sent over, and that can take up to a week. But most of my shipping happens within the next couple of days.
And that's why. So I'm sorry, I'm going off subject here, but that's why I said what I said in the beginning. It's like I'm not trying to be the coolest reptile show because I know I'm probably not going to be. I'm just trying to spread positivity.
Yeah,
I want people to see me for who I am. You know, and see what I love doing is working with these reptiles, these snakes, what I'm passionate for, and you know, and if this show does take off, it takes off. But like I said, I'm building it on positivity
yeah.
because I'm tired of all the negativity out there. I mean, it's too much of it.
There's so many videos of people, this person talking shit about that person, and this person doesn't like this person, and so they're like, they're not doing it the right way. And can you believe they posted this video? And it's like, there's better ways of giving criticism if you think somebody's doing something the wrong way, and it's for the betterment of the animal. Like if somebody's, keeping a ball python in a sock underneath their bed, I'm gonna be like, hey, I've got an idea for a way that you can keep that. It's not going to be that much more expensive than the socks you're using and throwing away, but it might be better for the animal. I bet it's going to eat better if you get these temperatures in the zone versus just you see it all the time on Facebook with like somebody posts up like how's this cage and people just rip them to shreds, and it's like guys, if you want people to be involved in this community and you want this to continue, you can't just like treat people like they're stupid when they're new to something. Everybody had to start somewhere. I used to have a 10-gallon with a regular incandescent light bulb on top of it, bricks on the corners to keep the damn thing inside of it. Like that's how I used to keep ball pythons back in the day. I had just a rack system with nothing but 10s and 20s and bricks on everything, or those little clips that never really worked that well. And something would always
Yeah, I always use the brick too. Don't worry, I know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
that's how we did it, right? And then I built custom screen and wood enclosures for my monitor lizards, and still same thing. I used a regular halogen, no UVB. Like I remember crushing up Tums to sprinkle over my iguanas' food back in the day because we knew they needed something with calcium, but we had no idea what we were doing. Like there was a time and place where none of us knew what was going on. And now, 23 years into it, I have way more knowledge, but just because I have it doesn't mean somebody else should already have it. And whether they got the animal before they researched or not, it's not my job to talk shit and make them feel stupid or point out their flaws. It's my job to educate. and to share my passion for keeping these animals in the most healthy way that I know how to do it now. Because in 10 years, we might all be doing it wrong still. We don't know.
See,
Exactly.
and they were saying that last night. See, yeah, that's right, Elazar. Educate, not hate. It's sad how the reptile community turned into competition and negativity. And as long
Absolutely.
as Elazar has known me, he's known me for a long time, and I have not competed for anybody. I lift them up, I support them in everything they're doing, even if it's wrong, man, because they'll learn on their own eventually.
Right. You can't make everybody listen to you. You can say, hey, this is how I do it, and they might go, well, that's stupid. That doesn't work. And I go, well, I've got 10 emeralds that are saying otherwise.
What's up, Carissa?
How's it going, Carissa?
And so,
Just
like what they were saying last night too about like enclosures, or so last night they brought up a topic is feeding calcium, like putting it on the rat or the feeder or whatever they're giving it,
Yeah,
and then giving it
calcium
to the
powder.
snake. Yeah.
yep.
So I was told not to do that because, like, why? Why would you do that? That's what they told me, right? So
Mhm.
I stopped doing that because I was doing it before, and they're like, that doesn't do anything for the snake. And then last night they were talking about it, and I was like, what? They told me not to do that.
Right.
So I'm confused. Like, can you do that or can you not do that?
And I think it depends on. There's a lot of factors that play, and part of my medical like understanding of how the body works, and obviously animals are different than we are, right? But understanding the chemistry and things behind what the animal's doing with that calcium, how often it's eating in the wild, right? And what it's primarily eating in the wild. For animals that might, eat more eggs or might eat more birds or might eat more, crustaceans or, whatever. Depending on the amount that they're eating, how often they're eating can affect how much nutrients they need. My false water cobras never turn down a meal. They can be full shed and ready to drop eggs, and they're like still gonna try and eat. So I don't need to dust any calcium for them because they are eating a lot of bones all the time, right? They do breed twice a year, but if I were to notice, hey, you know what? On the second round of eggs, I'm noticing that like kind of thin, right? Like maybe they're getting a little clear. I'm getting some splashiness to the eggs. Maybe I do need to supplement some calcium a little bit, and maybe I need to do that closer to the time where they're going to be producing eggs. It might be something that I do seasonally. Versus, I've noticed that with my green tree pythons, and I've talked with a couple of other people that are kind of leaning towards this theory. The reason, part of the reason that green tree pythons may have such a poor success rate is that they are eating much more consistently and eating animals that have a higher concentration of calcium are the European brown rats, right? That we feed off most commonly to our reptiles here in America. Um, they're eating much more frequently than they would in the wild. Opportunistic in the wild, they might get a couple of meals a year, and so their calcium levels are going to be much higher than a wild caught specimen would be, and their eggs are coming out much thicker than usual. So what I've started doing to increase my success rate is actually cutting my eggs and doing a pip in them right at the 55-day mark. Because on my first two litters, I noticed that I had a lot of them that seemed to be drowned in the egg, fully formed. Everything looked great. There's no reason for them not to have survived, and they just never made it out of the egg. And I waited till like day 60, 61, 62, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to get you out of here. And they're already dead. And
Damn, that's
so
sad.
is that the calcium being too thick because they're not eating at the same rate that they would in the wild? On the other side, on the other argument of that is we feed we overfeed all of our animals. We're used to mammalian style of feeding and taking care of animals, and that's how our track works. Dogs and cats and ferrets, hamsters, gerbils, like all the things that we had as kids. They got to eat every day. So do we. We need to eat and drink every day. So do they. Eh, not in the wild. They don't do that. So a lot of our animals are overweight and overfed and probably have a higher concentration of nutrients inside their bloodstreams that are going to affect how well they reproduce and the different factors that play into that.
It's interesting. I think
I'm
that's
just, I'm just
I
like,
think that's the
wow.
first time
Yeah.
I've heard the thicker shell. um, theory, and I believe it because there's a lot of stories of fully formed and then dead in the egg.
Because
I personally
Mhm.
never seen it, but
in the wild, I'm not an expert on wild hatch rates, right? I'm not even gonna pretend like I've got the numbers sitting here, but I'm sure somebody has looked into it. And in the wild, everything's about efficiency, right? So just theoretic thoughts behind it on it for me is they're not gonna do something that's ineffective. They want to have as many babies as possible because two or three of those are going to make it to adulthood. The rest of them are going to be strong enough to move away and kind of like distract predators. And there's a couple of them that are going to be there for egg nest raiders and things like that. A lot of them are just cannon fodder, which is why they have so many young, right? And so they're not going to do something that's ineffective. Why would they? They're like, well, only three of them are going to make it anyway, so we're only going to let three of them out of the egg. Only three will be strong enough to do it. Those are going to get picked off by predators right away, and then the species isn't going to be like efficient at surviving and reproducing. So it makes sense that a lot of those would make it out in the wild, and the only thing that changes between the wild and captivity is how we care for the animals, how often we provide water, what kind of nutrients we're providing, what kind of food we're feeding, how close is it to their natural diet in the wild, and then again, feeding rates. A lot of my emeralds and green trees, I don't feed them nearly as often as everybody else does. I monitor their weights and make sure that they're not dropping, and I actually cycle my size of my food. So there are periods when they will get less often larger prey items, and there are periods where they will get more often smaller prey items. And that's just based on wild cycling of when there's babies available in the wild and when there will be only adults available and how often those will be available based on the food sources that the prey items are going to be eating based on the cycle of nature out there. I'm not going to say that it's down to a patented science that I can recommend everybody, but it's just practice. And similar to medicine, everybody does it a little bit differently. And just because what I do here in Florida is working well for me doesn't mean it's going to work great in Texas. Doesn't mean it's going to work great in South Carolina. Our temperature fluctuations and humidity and barometric pressures are all different. All of that has an effect on reptile. So we all kind of have to find our own way, which is again why we shouldn't be talking shit if somebody's got something that's working.
yeah, I agree.
Okay, so like Aspen wasn't working for my snake, so I had to switch over back to paper. I'm gonna tell you what, because the humidity sucks here in Texas.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that. But
And
when
I
it
gotta
does get
tell you, there, you can
humid
have
out here, when it does
yeah,
get humid out here, though, yeah,
if I ran a humidifier in my room like you got in there, my walls would be sweating. It would be bad.
I gotta. So yeah, I guess yeah, it's not hot in here. It's not humidity. It's just it's like I guess right now it's like perfect. Like I said, I already checked the temps. You saw
Yeah.
81 when we started the live, and right now in this room, let me see. See, I'm at 74 now. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, in the room 74.8 now.
Nice.
So I mean, it's good
Have
because
you
I'm not trying to dry
what
them out.
what product is that you're using? The thermostat gauge.
Home Oil Essentials.
Okay.
It's a
I'm just curious.
scan.
I'm always interested in the products that people are using. I use a lot of Govee products down here. Have you ever
Yeah,
investigated?
this. So like this one does surface temp, which is here,
Yeah.
and if see I'm at 91.8, I'm hot.
Yeah.
But and then I got body temp for like the body, and then
Right.
I got room temp.
Okay. For ambient temperature.
So just throw it up in the air and just hit the room temp, and then come back see 75 when I go higher.
I always like to talk like electronics and product with people because a lot of the mainstream products that people buy for their reptiles are drastically overpriced and almost
Hmm.
unnecessary. Like your herpestats, and not that they aren't great products, not that they don't work well, but a couple of products that I've been using lately that I found really good luck with is the Pi Meter, Pymeter. I recommend it to all of my customers that come up. I get them on Amazon for like $39. It's a food grade industrial thermostat that they use for like monitoring food temperatures and things, or fridge temperatures. And you can set it to within a degree of variation. And it usually the one that I get has two dual plugs and dual thermostat probes. So I'll run my pairs, like my two emeralds or my two green trees or the two falsies that I'm going to be pairing up, so that I can cycle that pair together. Um, and those things have been working great, and they're so much cheaper. The other thing that I use a lot of is Govee, Govee, and it's a like home monitoring system. So you can get smart plugs that connect to your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth in your phone, and then you can get little monitors that do your ambient temperature and humidity, and will actually like do fluctuation readouts and tell you your dew points in your cages and when the most optimal times are for like misting.
I use some of the Gobi products as well, and
I
I
like
love that you can control it from your phone. That's probably the best part.
right. So I can set my mister on a automatic like smart plug, and then I can just look at the readouts of when my dew points are changing, and I can set my misting to surround those so that it simulates like a more naturalistic point when there would be, either dew forming or rainfall.
Hmm.
That's awesome. That's
The
awesome.
message about keeping animals outside, like Tom Crutchfield, I am going to be experimenting with that in the near future because I designed all of my cage products to go inside. Right, you wouldn't want to put out a toad outside; they would bake an animal. But a lot of research that I've been talking to about other people who are working with the emeralds and green trees are saying that keeping them outside here in Florida is where it's at, and it's so much better and simple.
You said what stats do you use again? These herb stats are expensive. I found out.
They are. So Pymeter, Pymeter. I get them off of Amazon. Um, they're like $39. I have probably 20 or more of those in my room right now.
Wait, so you're saying there's 20 of them for $39?
No, no, no. They're
Oh,
39.
I was like, what?
I have probably 20 of them in my room right now
Okay, okay. You have 20
because I
more
do
in
have
here.
some other of the herb stats and the other styles of thermostats that I've paid quite a bit of money for, more than I would like to admit. And
I was
they
gonna say I use Bink though. What about Bink?
Bing.
Is it Bink or Blink?
I'm not familiar with that.
It's like a little stat. It's like $20. It's for like the racks and some stuff.
Oh, like the
So
one that hooks to your phone too.
no, they don't go through phone. So this one's like you set a temp and it'll hit that temp and it'll stay there. It won't
Oh,
go down. It won't go up. It just sits at that temp.
let me see.
But
I
if
might.
it overheats, it'll kick off and turn off automatically by itself. Oh, what happened?
Blink thermostat. Oh, interesting.
Oh, you're googling. I was like, what? What happened?
I'm looking it up. I'll look at them and I'll check them out.
Yeah, it's just like $20 I think or 19.
Okay.
Can't remember what it was, but
That's
so
why I like
Bill,
talking about this because everybody has like different things that they find along the way. Like, oh, this works really well, or oh, this was shit. This didn't work. Like, don't buy these. These are crap. They break all the time. And so I'm always interested to hear and see what people are using.
yeah, not bad. A Herbstat one is $100. My Herbstat six was stupid expensive. Yeah, bro, I don't do that.
They get crazy.
The only reason I have a Herbstat is because it came with the incubator.
Came with the incubator. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I usually got mine. Is it came with a rack or an incubator?
so mice came with my sea serpent incubator that I got.
Yeah, sea serpents.
Yeah, I fucking love them.
Good
Um,
incubators, man.
and that one, yeah, I love that one. So when it lights up at night, it's blue. So I like throw it all blue out, blue light. It's
Matches
dope.
your theme.
Yeah, but yeah, I like my sea serpent rack, but that's the only one I have. Like I said, everything else, Amazon, $20 for that Blink little thermostat thing,
Yeah,
and it comes with a little thermometer, so you put it right in the middle, so it always keeps like checks your temps for you.
right in the center. Yeah, I remember taking a one of those old fridges with the freezer on top and the fridge on the bottom and ripping all the internal components out of it and running the heat wire that wire they used to tell you to wrap around your grapevine that used to catch everything on fire. And I lined that up and down the inside of the fridge and put metal tape over it, and then filled the whole thing, all the door and everything of it, full of water, and ran a old home thermostat that you would use for like your air conditioning. And I wired it all together and made my first incubator out of an old refrigerator that I had in my bedroom back in the day.
Nice.
Small
Man,
beginnings, right?
people that do that, I'm just like, man, how did like you find time to do that? Because I was saying something on another podcast, like I started building like a little rat rack because I was trying to breed rats,
Mm-hmm.
and you screw them in, and then you let it stand up, and then it falls like it falls over, it breaks or something breaks. I'm just like, the hell with this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I don't got the patience to like build stuff, and I see all these people doing cool shit. It's because they're trying to, but
I
I
mean,
know they're crying, or it's just hard. It sucks. You know.
the thing is, you got to be willing to learn from the failures, right? Like, I have a lot of rat racks in my backyard, and I finally found a system that I liked. And there are problems with it, like if it's not set up perfectly and the rats are just a little too small before I pull the wings out in certain tubs, then they can get their nose over the edge and chew through part of my bins, and I got to change it out before they escape all the way. And I've been doing a couple of years of breeding rats for pet stores now, and then somebody calls me and goes, "Hey, I'm getting out of breeding rats. Do you want my rat racks?" And I go, "Of course I do. I'm always looking to expand." I go to pick it up and I'm going, "The hell am I looking at?" And he has a completely different design system where he has it's like shelving units that the tubs sit on. Instead of mine sits in like a rail that you slide in. It's like a drawer, like our normal racks, right? It's got screen on the top. I've been using that for years. And there's minor issues that you got to deal with, but that's just how it works. Nope. He had somebody engineer and design a whole different system to where the lid is free floating that sits on the tub, which makes a perfect seal around it. He sold me 400 tubs. Not one of them had a chew mark on it. And apparently I've just been doing it wrong.
Wow.
Man, that's crazy.
Everybody's
But
got different ideas, and we can learn from anybody.
and that's what we need to do. Like, just be open minded too. Like you said, and like you said not too long ago. Like, we just gotta be open minded. Like,
Yeah.
what may work for them may work for you, may not. You
And
know.
if it doesn't, that's fine. But that was our biggest move recently here at Valhalla. We were running about around 200 rat breeding groups. And I run like a 4-to-1 ratio, and we purchased enough racks to take that to closer to 600. So we should be moving up in the rat community and starting to supply and expanding our horizons in that direction.
So do y'all like sell rats and like frozen thawed, or y'all freeze
I
rats or
do
anything like that?
mostly to pet stores. I don't do a lot of direct customer sales unless they know me and reach out and they're like local and want to come pick it up. Because if they're not already on my route for delivery, the gas is expensive, guys. Okay, if you want to swing by and pick them up, then we'll work something out. But
Because there's a lot
mostly
of people there
I
in
do pet
Florida.
stores.
That's what I'm saying.
And then I do larger wholesale orders. So I don't typically do like, hey, I need 3 or 4 rats for my snakes to feed. But if you're looking to get like 50 to 100 or so of a certain size, and you want to get frozen ones, I'll gas them and freeze them and put an order together, and then we can pick a meetup spot. I'll give you a cooler full of rats. One day I'm going to get pulled over, and that cop is going to have some very interesting questions for me. I've got a
See,
bucket that says venomous reptiles and a cooler full of dead rats, and he's going, "What's happening here?"
see,
What did
right
I just
now,
pull over?
I'm looking into like starting like, how we have FedEx and Amazon and all that shit. And,
Yeah,
they ship to your door. Well, they don't handle or probably like take care of the reptiles. They just throw them in the truck, right?
right.
So I have the idea of, and I got somebody, we're working on it together, and we're gonna try to do where we can, when somebody has an order or they order from me or from anybody here in Texas, I pick it up and take it to that person.
Oh, like a courier service for reptiles?
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be sweet. That's not a bad idea at all.
But it's only for reptiles. I'm not trying to do like meds, pharmacy, all that other shit they be trying to get you to do.
Like, hey,
I'm
listen,
just
there's an
trying to.
emu over here that you need to wrestle down and bring to me.
Who, me
No,
or
just
Eric?
saying, you're not going to wrestle emus or ostriches, cassowaries. You're not going to be delivering those, right?
I mean, we could, as long
You
as
need a trailer for that.
as long as it's a baby, right? If it's a baby and it
That's
stays in a
a
box,
great
more
idea.
than yeah.
That's not
Hell
something
yeah.
I didn't even think of that, but offering a courier service that way, you know, it probably wouldn't be too much more expensive to have the animal picked up and brought to you. Even if it was double the price, right? If I've got a really expensive animal that I'm spending thousands of dollars on, I don't want my UPS guy is real nice, or my FedEx guy, he's very nice. Do I want him handling my several $1,000 basin? Not
No.
really. I don't trust him that much. So having a service like that, I would be more than willing to pay to have somebody who knows reptiles, is familiar with keeping them safe and temperature controlled, to deliver it to me. That's a great idea.
So yeah, that's what we're working on right now. We're trying to set up a website. Like we got that going. I got the merch line going, and I'm bringing on people who, like Eric. I just brought on Eric as a co-host. So, and everybody like people love this guy. He's so positive. But I do have a question in this: if you could go back in, if you can go back in time, knowing what you already know, what was one thing you would change?
As far as like reptile stuff, right? We're not just talking about my whole life regrets, right?
No, about working with reptiles. Yes, working with the reptiles.
If I were to go back,
Or go back to the beginning, knowing what you know now. Is there anything you would change? That's what I meant. Sorry.
I definitely wouldn't have gotten out of reptiles.
Odin. I know Odin. I know who you're talking about.
All the reptiles. Now he's Odin's Exotics. Nice. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I think I have.
Brothers in arms there. Yeah, if I was to go back and change one thing about my reptile career, I don't think I would have let myself get out of it. I sold the last. I sold the last of my snakes to buy my engagement ring for the wife, and I wouldn't.
That's for a good cause. Good cause.
It was a good cause. It was a good cause. I wouldn't change marrying her for sure, because how many other women are going to sit you down and go, "Listen, you're not happy. You're just working yourself to death. You got to do something you're passionate about. Like, why don't you buy a snake?" And then be like, "Yeah, why don't you get venomous ones?" And actually, I kind of like the crocodilians. You should get more of those. Like, there's very few women out there that are going to be able to do that. Like, she's special. So I wouldn't change that, but I wouldn't let myself get out of it. Starting back from scratch, I do think that it allowed me to get a different perspective on it. But I also think I could have gotten to that point and shifted that. There you go.
Odin Reptiles. Sorry, not Odin Exotics. I have Odin Reptiles. I also got their shirt.
To my design stuff too, the Jormungandr.
Yeah. See it on Facebook and Instagram.
Nice. One of my Norse brothers. I like it.
I agree, Joe. I got out for a little bit, and that's probably it eats you up a little bit. And like, dang, I probably shouldn't have sold this and that.
I did that too when I was young because I was stupid. I had I got into animals. Like I had a whole zoo in my room. My mom's like, "This room stinks. You need to clean it up." Right? I had a whole hedgehog. I had like a hamster, a bunny rabbit. Had a western hognose. I had a milk snake. It was a good 5 feet, but it got out of its tub because that's how I bought it, and I left it in the tub. And it got out of the tub, and my mom's like, "Your snakes are in the tubs, right? They're not in the house." And I was like, "Yeah, they're all in their tub, and that one wasn't. It was roaming the room." And then one day I had my music on, and I heard the speaker fall over, and I got up quick because I knew, he's moving around, right? So I jumped off the bed and I saw her. I grabbed her by her tail, and she tried to go into something else. I was like, "Come here!" and got her out. But to this day, like I do have a ball python here somewhere, free roaming this
Just
house somewhere.
somewhere.
I mean, obviously it's not dead because I'm tell you what, nothing smells like death in these walls. Let me tell you that.
I'm sure he's eating just fine.
Yeah, he's eating something. But my
Joe,
mom
what
don't know.
what did you
So
want to keep outside? Sorry, Chris.
Wait, what?
Did you say we were interested in keeping stuff outside?
Oh, the green trees and emeralds.
Oh,
Apparently,
okay.
people have been. So there was a really interesting article that and I'm probably going to misquote it, but have a good night, brother. Um, but this guy took and imported a bunch of emeralds because one of the big problems with emeralds is this cyclical like vomiting syndrome, right? And it's where you feed them and then they throw up and then they get ulcers in their throat. And for a long time, we've been thinking that it was avian chlamydia infections. And I know it's called chlamydia. It's not an STD in reptiles. It's a super infection of a intestinal not parasite but bacteria that basically you've got all these little like fingers that roll like this that push food down along through the intestinal tract, but this overgrows and gums all of that up, and so they get it down and they can't move it any further because the intestines aren't able to work that downward, and so then it starts to rot and they throw it up. And with that bile, they erode part of the esophagus because they're squeezing things down that way, and now it's going the wrong direction. And so they get issues, they get some bleeding, and then they're like, I'm done with that whole eating thing. That sucks. And we've been treating them with like doxycycline to try and break up all of that and get them clear of that. And that has successfully worked with me on several of them. And thus far, that's been like the track plan for trying to get these ones that are vomiting over and over again to feed, right? And basically, we just don't feed them for a while, let everything heal, and then we try smaller items once we've given them like 28 days worth of doxy. But this guy took and imported a bunch of them, and he fed them, and they all threw up. And he went, well, shit, that sucks. But then he took and gave them a while and tried to like feed them again. But he got busy. He got his rats in and he was like, I can't feed them tonight. And he left them. And he was like, well, I got to feed the rats something. So he just like threw some fruit in there, some bananas and shit. And then he didn't get to feed them that night. And the next night he fed them and none of them regurgitated. And he was like, okay, interesting. That's different. And so there's this new theory that's kind of developing in and amongst that. And I kind of confirmed it and on a very small scale with one of mine that I got from somebody who got it. And every time it ate it threw up, she couldn't get it to eat. So she donated it to me to see if I could save it. And basically, what we're finding is that if they're throwing up, some of them seem to have some sort of intolerance to whatever we're feeding the rodents in our standardized rodent diet, which has a lot of filler items in it. Could be wheat based, could be some kind of gluten based, could be like we're not really sure what the example is that or the sample is that's causing this irritation as they start to digest their prey item. But we're finding that if you feed them a fruit based diet for 2 or 3 days and you just like throw apples in, so I just would take a mouse and I'd put it in there and I'd just give it apples and some water. And doing a fruit based diet and then feeding it to the emeralds, they're far less likely to regurgitate it, especially on the fresh imports.
So kind of like gut loading
Yeah,
feeders.
it's like gut loading your crickets or things, but instead of feeding the regular that the standard food that I feed to all of my rodents, which most of my snakes have no issues with, I'm finding that if I get one that is having like a regurgitation issue and they're not keeping their food down, and the emeralds specifically, switching over and feeding their food item fruit for a couple of days, and then offering it to it, that they won't throw it back up.
Interesting.
So all of that. Also, he's keeping them all outside, and they're doing phenomenal. They're eating, they're shedding, they're pooping and peeing, they're doing their thing. And so I may take and test out with a couple I may just get imports myself and get like 5 or 10 of them and set up outside cages and just see how they do down here in Florida. In Spring Hill, it does get a little chilly, so I'm gonna have to make these cages portable so that I can roll them. I have like an out shed that is AC controlled um, and insulated, so I may make it to where I can move those into there just during our winter months and then put them back out. Um, but our like temperatures and humidity levels aren't that different, and they seem to be doing well here. So I'm gonna test it out and see if I can't have better success outside.
I
And
mean, that's dope, but I'd be hella nervous at the same time. If
I know, right?
they've been leaving a
Definitely not
snake
putting
out there.
in or I'm not gonna
I'm
go
just
crazy.
like,
But a couple of wild caught emeralds, if I test them out and they do really well out there, and I can keep them more naturally. Basically, I would build large screened-in enclosures, and then I would run irrigation soaker hose across it, put it on a timer, and let it soak. Let it start raining a couple of times a day out there for them, and just keep them like that and as natural as I can.
It's super interesting.
so
I
I
always
got
get worried about other animals busting the cages.
And you definitely want to use metal wire, um, like the half
chicken
inch,
wire, right?
even chicken wire, or like the wider like octagon style chicken wire. Other animals will get into it. In fact, I catch a lot of rattlesnakes that think they're skinny enough to still go through chicken wire, and I end up having to pin them down and clip the wire and unwrap it to get it off of them. But the wild rats they will eat chameleons and other snakes and things like that. They're crazy. The fruit rats we have down here, they will fight and eat snakes and chameleons and other lizards if you keep them in a cage outside.
That's crazy.
Dang.
Yeah, our rats don't play around.
So, so what is the? My question is about like podcasting. Like, what is one topic that is discussed like frequently? Do you watch podcasts?
I very busy. Between my 3 jobs and being a dad and husband, I don't get to listen to as many podcasts as I would like to. The last podcasts that I was listening to was actually last name Stroud. His the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast was the
I
last one
haven't
that I was listening to.
seen that one.
For anybody starting out and in the reptile community or business and interested in how to build like a social following and how to get a website done for a simple website and how to gain like how to brand and advertise and how to like he's very good at helping people step by step like build. He has a whole podcast series on building an entrepreneurial startup um, reptile business specifically. He talks about niching down and picking something that you're interested in and doing research and how to expand your community. It's a good podcast.
What was the name of it again?
The Reptile Entrepreneur podcast. I think it's Bill Stroud.
I gotta check that out because I'm always like checking out other podcasts.
Honestly, it was phenomenal. Um, his voice is a little monotone, and so so
Just
for
kind of like a book.
myself, I definitely had to increase it to like 1.5 or 2 times the speed, just so that I didn't get like sleepy. But I
Mm.
really enjoyed his podcast. That was the last one I listened to. I don't listen to as much as I would like to. Basically, when somebody sends me a podcast or when one of my friends mentions me, I get it sent to me and then I'll watch the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I was just trying to figure out like what is the most topic you hear like people bring up.
I mean, for me, the most thing that I like discussed on mine because I do have the Valhalla Bound podcast that I want to be more active and involved in. It started out similar to like this, where I would, interview people and talk with them. I did a podcast with a friend of mine who was a business mentor, and we talked about starting up businesses and my journey into starting Valhalla Exotics. And then I did a really cool podcast with Terry Burwell, who is a very interesting gentleman. He runs TV Snakes up in South Carolina. He works with diamond pythons, rough scale pythons, Barons racers, blood pythons, some ball python stuff. Doing cool work out there. But um, he at one point spent time like working at a crocodile farm in Australia. Like he like did backpacking in the Amazon and like all this cool stuff. Um, but the things that I like to cover podcast wise are a lot of about like what's happening in the community, what are the new things we're learning, and then just the basic reptile care. I feel like not enough people go over like the basics of, well, how do you set up a new enclosure and how do you regulate temperatures? Like what options are there for thermostats, and are the dial rheostats okay? Yeah, they're fine as long as you have some other way of checking your temperature and making sure that you're in the zone. And digital ones versus analog versus just plugging it into the wall and burning the house down. Like, what are our options here? um, Talking about humidity retention and going over those basics, I think is a really important thing, and that's what I try to go over a lot of things on when I talk to people either at the shows or when I do video content.
Interesting.
I like
I'll
that.
definitely check yours out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
You
not
you
very
have
many
some
videos.
videos up?
I do have videos up, and I have some funny TikTok and shorts, and we have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We have a YouTube. That's where the podcasts are, and then there's also the DIY videos on how to set up and do our products and how all of those work. There's like little commercials about them where I talk about the reason why I designed them the way that they are and how they function, and then there's like this is how I put it into the cage and how I use them.
That's cool.
Oh yeah.
I want to check out your tub designs, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, check them out. I really like them. Honestly, I built them for me. It was like, I wanted to buy them wholesale from this other guy who had started doing a simple design like what we do. Ours has changed a lot since that initial like stuff that I bought from him. We've added a lot of different things and changed a lot of the functions to work differently for us. Um, but I made them for me, and I just basically was like me drawing and taking a video of it and sending it to my friend who's an engineer, and was like, I want it to be something like this, but I want it to work this way, and I want it to be this size, and I need this done differently, and it needs to be this product so that it doesn't melt, and blah blah blah. And he whipped up the CAD designs and then printed out prototypes and sent them to me and I was like, no, tweak this, change this. It needs to snap tighter here until we got it right. And then I had somebody else who came over and saw the products I was using and was like, "Yo, where'd you get these?" And I was like, "Oh, I have a buddy who prints them out for me." Like I basically wrote a contract between me and him. He designed them for me, and I own the print files. And I just tell him how many I need of what. And he was like, "Can I get some?" And I go, "Yeah, let me print some out for you." I think I was selling them for like $1 a piece back then. They've gotten much more intricate and much more branded and designed, and there's a lot of like QR codes that scan and go to things and instructions and paraphernalia that goes with it now. We have like printouts that are like stencils that you take and put in place and pre-drill your holes so that you can take and just make it as simple as possible so that anybody with a pocket knife can basically put these things together. Um, and so they're more expensive now. But he was like, "You should sell these to people." I was like, "I don't like if anybody wants them. If you know somebody." And he was like, "No, you should put these together and figure out the others, like the marketing side of it, and get it figured out." So then I started, and people buy them off of our website or they message me on Facebook, and like especially my local guys from the meet me at the shows, they'll be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in Lakeland on this day. Like, are you gonna be anywhere near there? I need these products," and I'll just box them up, and if I'm over that way, I'll just drop them off to them.
Nice.
Try to build that community.
That's a big one too. I can't stand random holes in the tubs when you have so many tubs and then the holes are in different spots. It's like, why don't I
Yep.
just do it the same?
Yep. And so if you ever have drilled out like for your door to do a door handle, the standard 2-inch hole drill. It's the same drill that you use to do the holes, and the vents fit right over top of it. You pre-drill the holes and put the screws through it, and now you have an adjustable ventilation system that you can hook a fan to, or you can leave it open and just adjust it depending on how much airflow you want to pass through. The nice thing about not having the ventilation on the top either, right? So we're stacking cages. I put male and female next to each other. As soon as pheromones start passing through, my boys stop eating, and when they get more horny than they are hungry, that's when I know it's time to move them over.
Nice.
So I just put my pairs next to each other in stacks,
Hmm.
and that's
I
how I
actually
make
gotta.
pheromones cross.
I'm gonna message you after this, see if you could do something for me, because I have an idea, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna run it through you first. I don't want to say it on a podcast yet, because
yeah. Don't want anybody to
top
steal your
secret.
idea.
Yeah, top secret right now.
All right. Hush, hush.
But so I have two more questions.
Yeah.
I don't know, Eric, how many questions you got?
I got a couple, but you can go first.
All right. Uh, so one of my questions is it's simple, it's easy. Uh, what do you think of the podcast so far?
I'm enjoying it. Any excuse that I can to have to talk to other people who enjoy the same thing I do, like like I said, I medicine is the biggest backup plan in the world for me. You'll always need a doctor. You'll always need a nurse
Yeah.
practitioner. So easy money. I'll always be able to have a job. But if I could do this all day, every day, hands down, this would be my favorite thing to do.
You
So I'm
know,
enjoying this a lot.
when I was like, I'm so many like views away from getting monetized, but I
Nice.
also need 1,000 subscribers, right?
Right.
At the same time, my the only thing that's killing me is short reels. Like
Yeah.
I stopped doing the short reels, and now it's just hard to get back into them.
Everybody's attention span is this big these days. You got to do those like
I
short
do
little.
like 5 second reels, and that's it.
Yeah, you literally just have to do those. That way they can just flip through it and it counts as a view and it boosts your algorithm. It's one of the hardest things. What I've started doing is like every time I'm feeding an animal, which I've got 60 plus snakes in there, right? I go through and I'm like, all right, we're gonna feed the diamond python today. There it is. And we're done. Flip over, throw music on it, and then schedule it for a post. And that helps when you just like make sure that you're recording everything. If you get like a little tripod and just, hey,
See,
we're gonna
but what?
feed the diamond python. Here it is. Oh, hey, we're feeding emerald today. Boom. That way you can
See,
just get those little clips every time.
and what's crazy is that like back then they made a whole fit about doing live fittings on YouTube,
Mhm.
TikTok, Instagram, but people are still doing them, and now everybody else is doing them.
Now, lots of people are doing live. I feed almost everything frozen thawed, mainly because like it's just safer for my animals, right? I've got some pretty expensive animals that I've worked really hard to get, and I don't want to have the vet bills and have my guy come out and be prescribing me expensive medications because a rat tore a hole in the side of my snake or something.
It's
So
crazy. Yeah, I've seen pictures. That's
it can be
that's
bad.
disgusting. Yeah.
Now with the caimans, that's different. They're built like tanks. You could probably throw a landmine in there and they'd be fine. But the snakes and stuff, they can be fragile. You know, they get into the eye or something like that, or tear open part of the mouth, or it can get bad for them. So I do mostly frozen thawed, so I don't usually have any issues with the community guidelines, if you will.
Okay. And what is one thing you would change about the industry, community slash hobby, if you could?
Oh, the thing that's been killing me the most lately, and just driving me up a wall, is why is there a waiting list for me to get into a reptile show when this person over here is selling soap? Nothing against the lotion lady, nothing against the soap lady. I'm sure your stuff is great. But why am I on a waiting list for over a year to get two more tables at the Tampa show? And this lady's got foxtail possible butt plugs. I don't know what's happening here. What is going on that I'm waiting to get into these shows when we've got non reptile related products being sold at Replicon? Yeah.
And it's funny you say that too, though, because they had a show out in Dallas, and they said there was like more tables of people selling soaps,
Yep.
knives, than there were reptiles, and I was like,
Yep.
really? I was
And
like,
it
wow.
is it is getting increasingly frustrating because nothing against us. I think that they should make it a priority, right? If you are selling reptiles, first pick, like this is Repticon. There should be reptiles here. We should have reptile breeders and reptile exhibitors or education about reptiles. Even if it's native stuff, if you're just out here educating about wildlife ecology, that's fine. But it should be reptile related. If you're selling, and again, nothing against any of that, if you're selling lotion or soap or your own homemade jams, the reptile people should get first dibs on those tables. And then if there are extra spots, they should have like a lottery system or whatever, or like I don't know, highest bidder if you really want to get in there. Like make it a raffle if you want the money for it. Like make a bidding war for it, and make these people fight for a position to get into Repticon because it should be like specific to what it's there for. And I think that that's the biggest thing I would change right now.
And now, not only that, now the show in Dallas is only, I think, because they don't want retics in Dallas,
Yeah,
so you can't have large snakes in Dallas.
dang.
Yeah, so
They're
before it
cutting
was
down
in
large
Arlington, you
snakes.
could have retics, all kinds of snakes were there. It was awesome. I
Every
love
place
that
has their
show.
weird rules, though. Are either of you guys in Georgia?
No, thank God.
Okay. So you can keep rattlesnakes in Georgia fairly easily, based on what I'm being told. Right? I don't live there, but you are not allowed to keep any corn snakes or king snakes.
Crazy.
How does that make
Hey,
any?
that's funny you say that though, because the guy I'm having tomorrow on the podcast, he's from Georgia.
Yeah.
Peach State Pythons.
Okay.
Yeah, he's out of Georgia. And I
Okay.
said
Yeah. Ask him
because
about
it,
the corn snake king snake laws over there.
I will, because it's funny you say that because I was like, man, Peach State. I was like, isn't Georgia a peach state?
Yeah.
And I clicked right, so I sent him a message. I said, "Are you in Georgia?" And he laughs. He goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then that's why I put that Justin Bieber song for him, "Peaches." But yeah, that was just funny. I was just like, okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah. Everywhere has their own crazy laws that you have to jump through the hoops for, and they make it difficult. And I get the reasoning behind it. I'm not bashing the
But
reason,
honestly,
but some of them are pretty dumb. I'll admit it.
yeah, I was gonna say that. But honestly, some of them are pretty cool. I'm just like, I hate roles, but they're only doing it because one, they're starting to see the money that people are making in this hobby
Right.
slash industry. So everything has to deal with money. You already know.
Everything has to do with money, but you know what? Uncle Sam's getting a good cut of that as long as everybody's filing their taxes and they're regulating that appropriately. Which they've been on me about it. I'm paying Uncle Sam a good bit of money now that I'm making better money like through the company and that there's more money rolling through it. Uncle Sam gets every penny he deserves, or I don't know about deserves, maybe demands. Maybe demands is a better word.
But so, like, are you like trying to get into like your own store to where it's called Valhalla Exotics and you start selling like a pet shop kind of deal, like substrate,
So the big dream. You want the big picture?
Yeah, what is it?
The ultimate end goal
If
is
you want
a
to share it.
I don't mind sharing, is a
All right.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, open on the weekends event place with an amphitheater for reptile education expos and like shows, kind of like you would see at different zoos and things. A gator slash caiman slash crocodilian feeding pond, a little cafeteria, a playground that's all reptile themed. The whole building is a Viking longhouse. And as you walk in the front of it, there is like the reception area, and then it is a maze that goes back and forth, and it changes and goes through the different like um, ecological like zones of reptile habitat. So you've got like an aquatic zone, and like you got to take your shoes off like you're at the playground at like McDonald's back in the day, and you got to put your like shoes in the little rack, and you're walking in like a water walkway. and we've got all the aquatic reptiles going on. And then you cruise
That's
back over,
cool.
you put your shoes back on, and now you're in the desert, right? And so it's sand, there's lights, it's hot, and we've got all of our desert species. And these are our adult breeder animals that we're breeding for reproduction, conservation, whatever we're working on, right? And the theme behind it is this is the zoo you can take home. And so if you take your kids to the zoo and they're like, oh, that's an awesome animal. Can we get one of those? And you're like, I'm pretty sure we're not allowed to have chimpanzees, or at least it's going to be real hard to get one, right? And you probably don't want one. But you go into this and your kid's like, this is the coolest lizard I've ever seen in my life, and I want to have it. Well, guess what? We got babies, and we'll put together a cage for you, and you know, you can bring your kids for their birthday party, and we'll have the cage and reptiles set up, and you can give them the lizard that they want for their
Well, that's awesome.
and just this is the zoo you can take home. So then you cruise back, and now you're on a boarded walkway that the ground is painted to look like you're up in the rainforest treetops. Now we've got the arboreal species, all of them hanging on their vines in their big display cages and things like that. And then it's just open on the weekends, Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday. Um, we can
That
have
should.
feeders. Like we'll have a small depot that's like you stop in for bugs and crickets and feeders and things like that throughout the week. But the big display thing is like an event that opens up. You bring your kids, play on the playground. They get to see the animals, feed the animals, and learn about reptiles, and help sponsor and cultivate that passion in the next generation. Right? Steve Irwin did that for me. That was my hero. I want to be. I wanted to be just like him when I grow up. And so if I can cultivate that here and bring about a passion for these amazing animals and make other people in the next generation of people excited, nothing pisses me off more than when a kid comes up and is like, is there any animal that I can hold here? And they're like, not if you're not buying anything at the reptile shows. I just want to punch people in the mouth.
Actually, you know what? I
And
was gonna
comes
say
to my
that
kid
though.
when he wants, my wife gets mad at me sometimes because she's like, Joe, he doesn't have any money. You need to talk to his parents. And I'm like, but I was that kid. I was that kid at the show. I wanted to hold something. I wanted to see something I'd never seen before.
And they
So
never let you, right? Because from what I gather, it's because you never know. Like if this kid trusts that snake, it has mites on his hand. You get mites on your snakes.
right.
So
And there are precautions that I take. I spray, I make people do hand sanitizer before they touch any of my animals. And then my animals get cleaned with a mite spray every night after the show. And the cages get cleaned before the shows with the mite spray. They get sprayed down in between on the in between day. And then before they ever make it back in my room, they all get soaked and sprayed back down, just so that there's containment and precautions in place. But if we aren't cultivating that in the next generation, like they already spend too much time on their phones, locked in their rooms, playing video games. They're not out in the woods hanging out, chasing snakes and lizards and stuff like we did when we were kids.
Drinking from the hose
So
like we did.
yeah, you can't leave the house, otherwise you might get kidnapped. I mean, I'm short. I'm still at risk. Okay. I'm too
but
old to
you're
be shoved
right.
in a trunk, man. I'll go willingly if you just let me sit in the back seat. I can't
Um,
I can't do the trunk thing. All right.
But
But
I'm like, you're right though. Like kids don't even go out and play like they used to back in the day. Man, like I was out playing in the streets until the light came on. When that light came on, that meant your ass better be home.
better be home, right? I grew up in the mountains of New York, so we didn't have street lights on our street, but we did have a black bear that bedded down in our backyard every night. So when you could smell him, that was our street light, and we had to go inside because the bear was coming back to sleep.
Damn,
I grew up way up north,
that's awesome.
but I
But
think it's important to cultivate that, and so I want to set up something where yes, I can market my animals. I have a big spot. I can do displays and produce these animals and make them available to other people. But at the same time, it people can come and just experience it. Just bring the kids. Let them look at everything. Bring about
actually,
passion.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually envisioned your dream thing in my head, and that shit looked the way I envisioned it looked pretty badass. Let me just say, but
Yeah, it
We'll have
sounds
a
super
moat around
interesting.
it. The drawbridge comes down. Every Friday evening, people are waiting out there in line for the drawbridge to drop and come on in. We'll have a crackling pig on the spit roasting,
I'll be
That's
there.
dope. Right.
a little keg of mead for the adults.
All right. Eric, questions?
All right, the first one, because I have two. The first one, is there anything that you haven't worked with that you want to get into, like as far as species wise?
At this point in the game, I have put my hands on almost everything. I feel like I'm sure there's species out there that like I haven't heard of or that are super rare, but for me, the Borneo earless monitors, those
Okay.
cool. I used to keep tribbies or the red-eye croc skinks back in the day.
Hmm.
I love those little dudes. They were super cool. I used to breed them and hatch the eggs and the little red-headed babies that are chirping and sassy. I loved that. But as soon as I laid eyes on those Borneo earless monitors, I was like, one day that has to be a thing. I'm gonna have to get some of that and set up like one of those really cool like river style bioactive like ecosystem style tanks with the fish and the shrimp and like make it realistic. I got to do it at some point. That's gonna be it.
Nice. And then the second question is probably a more important one. How long is it taking you to grow your beard?
I was clean shaven this morning. I don't know what
Bro, I was thinking that in my head, which is funny you say that. I was gonna ask you, like, how do I get a beard like that?
I can't.
So the last time that I shaved clean was probably April of 2020. Um,
Damn.
so, and that was because I was working in the emergency room during COVID. And so they made me shave. And I'm pretty sure that is why they put out the mask mandates because they saw my butt chin and they were like, that's it. Everybody wears masks until Joe's beard comes back. Like, this is not okay. My
Oh,
wife
you
looked at
got
it
the
and she
strong
goes,
chin.
oh, baby got back and it's bad. So my wife saw my face and she goes, that was the first time she had seen it because I had like a short beard when we met and then I just kept it growing. And she saw my face basically for the first time. She'd seen pictures, but in person she saw it and she went, nope, don't like that.
That's not
And
the
I
person
went,
I met.
you mean my face? And she goes, yeah, it's better when it's covered up.
Damn.
Like, you thought you
Right.
married a Viking god, you got Pee Wee Herman over here.
Oh man,
That's
but
funny.
that
But
is funny.
usually, so I shaved it then, and then I stopped shaving, I think September of 2021. And then I just trim it and, kind of just crop it off. And I had it down to where it was touching my belly, like down here. And
Damn.
I had this interview for this new job. And so I squared it off and made it look nice. I like to braid it and put like beads and stuff in it for the shows, and then I'll wear like a sword at the Repticons or a big axe or shield or something. The wife usually doesn't let me wear the kilt, but when I can manage, I'll do it. I like to go all out for the shows. Bearded Joe, full swing.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. Like, I was just thinking about that today. It's funny you said that because I was like, man, I want to like dress up for like a Repticon or something.
It just makes it fun, This we're out here spreading knowledge and education, and there's no reason for me to be sitting back on my chair on my cell phone the whole weekend, just being like, "Hey, if you have any questions, just let me know," and go right back to it. Like, no, let's have fun. Let's dress up. Let's follow our themes. Let's make it fun and entertaining, not only for the kids, but just let's have fun. Make it an enjoyable weekend and go dress up. And my one of my apprentices, she does 101 Dalmatians. So that's like her theme for her geckos because she works primarily with Dalmatian crested geckos. And
That's
so
awesome.
when she comes out with me, she'll like dress up as Cruella Deville. And like she's out there selling her Dalmatian crested geckos as Cruella Deville. Um, in fact, I got her husband he came on, and I had him dress up as one of the henchmen from the third one, and we just make it fun. It's a good time,
And they're
But
also conversation starters for
right?
like people just walking by, just talking like your outfit, you know.
Yeah. Most of the time, they're like, "Is that a real sword?" And I go, "Why would I carry a fake one? It's a battle-ready Damascus steel. It's sharp. No sense in carrying a fake one."
I was gonna say too, though, like, um, where was I going? Shit, I lost my train of thought. I
Sorry.
forgot, man.
Gone. It'll come back.
No, it had to do about like getting dressed up too, like for the shows. Like it's just like I was gonna say it was probably for kids, but I don't know. I can't remember. It's
I mean,
gone.
I'll take any excuse I can get to get my wife in a sexy Viking dress. So
I agree. I agree.
any chance, you know? She's not okay with the ones I chose, but she did pick a more modest one that still looked good.
Did she help you with the shows at all, or is
She
it
actually
moral
does.
support?
She does. So the local shows, my daughter and my wife will actually come out and run them with me. We do have 3 kids. I have a daughter, Madeline, who's 8, and then I have Eamon and Logan, my boys, who are 6 and 5, because I'm a slow learner. And they will come to the local shows and hang out. And I'll let them sell, like, I have lollipops and wristbands and bracelets and stuff that I lose money on them, but it's just there for the kids. I sell them for $1 a piece and just let my kids sell them so they feel like they're involved in, learning the process of working and, instilling that in them while they're young. And so they'll come out and help the locals. And then the farther ones, I usually take my apprentices with me and I work those ones. But my wife has picked up and she has run with it. At first, she didn't want to even go in the reptile room. And then she found keel-bellied lizards, long-tail green guys with the keeled scales down their belly from.
Oh, I have one.
You have one?
It's the only lizard I have.
They're so cool. She
So
found
which ones?
you get a pair, keel bellies or keeled-bellied lizards, Gastrophalus prassina.
Oh,
You've
okay.
seen it, kid. The only lizard I got, the green one.
They're
Yeah,
super cool.
they're
Is yours male or
gorgeous. Okay, yeah.
Eric, is yours male or female?
It's a female, and I only have one.
You gotta get you a boy because they breed fairly easily. You just do like a hot, dry, and a cold, wet season for them, and they'll breed. I think my female, I didn't cycle them this last time because we were moving and there was all this like upheaval and everything. Um, but she gave me like 25 eggs in a season.
Damn.
What?
Like she just kept dropping. Like every month she would drop another like 5 or 6 eggs. For a while, and she dropped a bunch of babies, and they all hatched out really well. They all ate really well, but the males get like this really cool like turquoise color when breeding season comes. They'll both look green, and then once his hormones start fluctuating, he gets this like turquoise that develops down his sides and down his tail and stuff. They get really pretty. So we'll have to get you a boy.
Yeah, one day maybe. But the one lizard I have she takes so much more work than any snake I have, you know.
Right? So much more work.
And she does get more
Lizards, yeah.
attention too,
But those are my wife's. She has a pair of those. And then we have some 5-line skinks that the kids caught outside, and we've set up a little colony of those to try and start breeding. But nothing made me more proud than the day that somebody came up and tried to be like an elitist, like, oh, is that a, and he spits out some Latin name while my wife's holding one of the false water cobras. And she looks at him and she goes, no, this is Hydra Dynasties. And I was just like, oh, I'm in love all over again. Did she just tell this man off in the Latin nomenclature? Yes, that's my girl.
That's dope.
You're like, you're speaking my language.
Yeah, literally. I was like, you've never been more sexy right now. She's like, I'm in your Valhalla t-shirt. Like I don't care.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But I mean, we already hit like 2 hours and 10 minutes. This show has been awesome. I loved it.
Great, guys.
Amazing. I know it went by fast though.
I know, right?
Just when you're talking, you're vibing, and it's just. But I appreciate you, Joe, for coming on, give me your time. I'm gonna hit you up after this though, so I want to shoot you an idea, see what you think,
Yeah, yeah,
and or you can wait backstage and I just talk to you then
yeah. That's fine. I'm here
after
for a
the
little bit.
episode. But
Watch you guys wrap up.
a positive message before we get on out of here.
A positive message for everybody,
Yeah, for everybody watching.
for everybody watching. It ain't hard to be nice. It takes way more energy to be mean to people. Just like understand and look at things from everybody else's perspective and know that your perspective on things doesn't have to be the only one. Everybody out here is struggling with their own stuff and living their own life and perceiving and experiencing things probably in a different way than you are. And the more that we can understand and be able to compassionately view things from other people's perspectives and have that reciprocated to us, I think the world would be a better place.
Hell yeah. All right. Same thing for you, Eric, or are you gonna change it this time?
Joe took mine. I'm not gonna lie, but a little, I kind of like a play on what he was saying. Everyone's got different things going on, not just reptiles, you know. And you're not gonna see eye to eye with everyone or agree, but as long as you have like civil conversations with people, you can learn from people, and then the energy you give is also going to be usually the energy you receive. So just be open-minded to people, whatever situation.
Hell yeah.
Love it.
Hell yeah. On that note,
And go
guys.
support US Arc and US Arc Florida, because I didn't say that last time.
Right.
I was gonna ask him that, but I was just like, man, it's already 2 hours long. But we'll get on it next time. I'll bring him back. Hopefully, Joe says yeah, he'll come back.
Of course. Anytime you guys want to talk reptiles, I'm here for it.
All right. And on
Yeah.
that note, guys, y'all have a great night. We're gonna head on out of here. Remember, lift each other up, never put each other down. You know, because when you work together, you rise to the top. On that note, we love you guys. Have a good night. Peace.